Alright, we're back today working on the 8700. Since you've last seen it, I got the master cylinder pulled out. I got the firewall insulation, well, what was left of it anyway, pulled out. I got this nice stuff here off Amazon. It's not really the right thing for the job, but I got this foil coated insulation. It's about a 1/2 inch thick. Should be plenty for this. I'm kind of thinking I might reinstall this original rubber coating, which I discovered, as you can tell by all the crud stuck to the firewall in here. It originally did have foam behind it, so I might put the rubber back on over top of this insulation just to make it last a little longer, because this foil doesn't really seem to be the best of quality. And it came with a little brochure, a little flyer in the package. It says they make a bunch of different kinds. I didn't realize when I was ordering it they made one that was coated in rubber. They would make one coated in yellow rubber, but I wish I could have got the rubber coated stuff, but this was the first thing that popped up, and I got the dash started to get tore apart. I'm actually going to pull the gauge cluster out while I'm at it, because I'm mounting a gauge pod right up top here, but my illumination lights for my gauges don't work when I turn the headlights on, and I never could figure out which freaking wire under there is supposed to go to that, because somebody had played with the light wiring before I got to it, but that's not uncommon. It seems like everybody plays with the lights on tractors and turns them into giant fire hazards, in my opinion. But right now I'm laying out the old piece of rubber over top of my new piece of insulation here, and I'm just going to trace out all the holes, mark everything, cut it all out with a utility knife. And at the top here, since the rubber was missing and the foam was missing up in there, I'm going to leave a little bit of extra hanging off. I'm going to measure, make sure I've got the right amount. And that way the top will be insulated, the firewall will be insulated, and everything should be good then. I'm getting kind of tired of working on this freaking thing, but it's just about done. And for the radiator, these tractors are supposed to have a foam seal for the bottom of the radiator, for the sides of the radiator to the side panels, and also where it bolts into the radiator support up here. I can't tell if the camera can see that or not. It's pretty bright out today. Let me hop up. But we got new rubber, foam rubber installed in here. It's just adhesive backed foam that I got also off Amazon. But it's actually made for installing and sealing window air conditioning units. I got 1 inch by 1 inch and 2 inch by 1 inch, because it seems like 1 inch thick was the thickest I could get. And I did look on Ford's website, well, Case New Holland Parts, or New Holland Parts, whatever you want to call it. Some of the foam was available, but for the price that it was and what I would have had to buy, I would have had to buy this stuff anyway, because some of it's discontinued according to what I was looking at. But I've obviously got it stuck to the radiator already, and on the insides of the side panels, I'm just gonna stick it on so that it corresponds and touches what I've already got there. I'm going to use the 2 inch wide on the panels. That way I'll have a pretty sure bet that it'll touch the 1 inch wide that I stuck to the sides of the radiator. And this stuff's pretty sticky. The adhesive on it definitely seems like it's going to last. I don't know about the foam, but you know, I've had tractors before. I had a Ford 5000 before this actually, and it had a new radiator put in it, and nobody ever put the foam seal in it. And I did a lot of brush hogging with that tractor, and I used to have to blow the radiator out. I actually used to bring a portable air tank with me, and halfway through the day when I was eating my lunch, I'd let the tractor cool off, blow the dirt and dust and sticks and crap out of the radiator before I started again after lunch. I don't want to be doing that with this. I didn't used to have a lot of trouble with this high quality, crappy, totally shot radiator that was in here, but it did have wider spacing. This was 5/8 spacing, 5/8 tube spacing. The new one, which is a good thing, is 1/2-inch tube spacing. And although that's a smaller space for things to go to, that means there's more tubes in the radiator. It's gonna have better cooling capacity. And I don't know if I told you guys, I think I told you I had to replace the radiator, but I brought it down to a shop that's about as local as you can get around here, because as far as machine shops and radiator shops go, everything's dying out. But I went to Hawthorne Industrial Radiator, and Michael down there, he was a really nice guy, got me a good deal on this radiator. And it says it's made by Northern Radiator, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it looks like a really well-built unit. My only concern, it's not really much of a concern, I'm not too worried about it. The old one had corner braces up in here. The new one does not, but that structure in the front, the radiator support, adds plenty of strength to the setup, so we should be alright. I wish, as much as I don't like being stuck to keeping things original, it would have been nice if it had that, but I mean, this is pretty sturdy when it's all bolted together, and it's got the cross brace in it, so we're not going to have any side to side movement to worry about that I can foresee anyway. I also I bent up a new oil cooler line for this side, and it didn't turn out too great. They didn't have just normal galvanized steel, good old-fashioned 3/8 brake tubing at the Napa that I go to. They only have this copper nickel alloy stuff, which is great, but the bender that I have seems to work best with just plain Jane steel tubing. So after fighting to get that side made, I ended up just reusing the old one on this side, and down in there I've got a compression union on it, and we should be good because it's a good quality Eaton Weatherhead compression union. I sanded the rust off the tube as best I could, got all the paint off of it, so that should be sealed up perfectly, because I use compression unions for a lot of stuff here on the farm. I mean, some old tractors and old equipment, like our baler in particular, we have an old New Holland chain baler that has 3/8 tubing all over it, and at the ends of the hydraulic hoses are actually a compression fitting, so I use that a lot. And on our John Deere 4020s, there's some tubes running through them that we've spliced together before with compression unions, and that's going to obviously be a lot higher pressure than this oil pressure is going to be running. But I'm going to mark out this foam, and before I get to cut it, I'll show you guys what I've got planned here, but I'm going to get to it. Alright, so I got this thing cut out, and I will admit, I could have not said anything, but I laid it out backwards the first time and I cut it out totally wrong. I got to the last hole and I was like, wait, this is backwards. So unfortunately I used all of my material, because the piece I would have had left would have been the right size to go up under the roof in there, or damn near close. So I just cut this out with a utility knife here with a good sharp blade. I cut the first piece on the foil side, I cut the second piece on the paper side, and if anybody plans on using this stuff, get a good pair of heavy duty scissors. I probably should have grabbed a pair, but I got it done with the utility knife. So I ended up cutting out my holes, and these black lines here, I scored the adhesive backing on it, the paper, because I plan on peeling the center section right here off first. Then each side is going to be able to fold in. I might even tape these in just to get it installed. But let me hold this. So these will be tucked in when I first stick the back to it. And then the top is going to come up, and each ear on the side I'm going to fold down and stick to the side too. So it'll be doubled up at the top here, and it'll make a nice little enclosure. And I am going to end up running this again, even though it's pretty damn near shot, but I just wanted to protect this crappy foil because I don't really see that lasting long with that fan beating away at it. So now I'm getting ready to clean the crud off the firewall. By the way, Ford taped up the headlight wires on both sides behind the insulation, and I'm just going to run put a hole and run them through the insulation, because I'm running all new wires for all that stuff, because I did have a fault in the headlight wiring, and that's what these wires are. I just had a temporary fix on there, but I'm doing more lighting work to the tractor, so I'll be addressing that. And I'm going to use compressed air and a bristle brush just to clean up the last of what's there. Alright, well, it's in. Did things a little differently than I had originally said. Boy, it's hard to tell with the camera. The foil looks all the same. I didn't end up tucking the side pieces behind the insulation. I stuck it to itself because I didn't get the firewall super clean, but this thing's not a show tractor and it's never gonna be. So where it was clean though, because over here I had to do some trimming to get the last of it tucked behind the lip here. It really did stick to the paint well. I can't get that stuff off, but it's going to be hidden by the side cover anyway. And my cut on the top here is very ugly, but nobody's going to see that. So I might have a hard time on the side because there's these push pins here. There's studs that stick out. There's one on the top, one on each side of the back, and one on each side. But these pieces just push right on there, and that's what holds it all together. So hopefully I'll get enough bite to get them to stick. But the firewall now has insulation, so I'm hoping I'll have a little bit of a cooler summer sitting in this thing, because I plan on using it more than I did last season. We're actually doing more hay this year than we've ever done before, and this ought to help out quite a bit. So there it is. Hopefully I'm not beating this whole firewall insulation thing to death, but I did put the rubber back in. I put the clips on, and I was actually just pondering to myself, I might put put a strip of something across that's not going to rust or corrode, and put a couple of tech screws in there to hold the front edge of the insulation up, because I'm sure all the air blown from the fan is going to end up peeling it off one day, because like I said, I didn't get it super clean. But I got the piece of rubber mat back in there, and it was tight getting those push pins on, with the side having an inch of insulation behind it before, but it's on there enough. They're a little bit bent, but everything's tucked inside nicely. I even there's like a tongue-shaped piece of insulation that goes up into you can't even hardly see, but there's a piece of insulation in there that insulates the inside of where the steering shaft comes up through the floor there. So I made sure to put that back in there. It's actually the original one. I've got it laying here on the truck. Some mouse got hungry and made some lunch out of it. So that's all that was left of that one. And also the foam was completely gone. I don't know what the heck this stuff is, but it looks like brains. Don't know how much more I'll get done here today, but I'll give you a sneak peek. The main reason I've been so anxious to get the firewall insulation done is because once the firewall installation's done and the master cylinder's rebuilt, I can put this frame loop that bolts to the back of the cylinder head on, that both side frames go to bolt the front to the rest of the tractor. But yesterday at work, I welded up my exhaust adapter. It turned out alright. And my heat spots aren't even on it, but I had it on a flat table and it didn't look like I warped it too bad. Not my best work there, but it'll hold. I would have done it here, but I don't have a actual MIG welder. I just have a little wire feed welder with flux core wire in it, and it's been sitting around for a while. And once that flux core wire sits for a while, it gets moisture in it, and you can't make a freaking nice weld at all. And it's too bad because it's like a brand new roll in there. But my exhaust adapter is going to bolt right onto the turbo. And I got a 1/2 inch thick flange, which is kind of overkill, but there's no gasket on this, and I really didn't want to risk warping the plate when I welded it. So that's why we went with a 1/2 inch. It ends up, I think it's weird that there's no gasket on stuff like this, but I've seen it plenty of times. It's how this style of turbocharger is. I got tape over it right now, but as soon as I get the master cylinder thrown back in. I actually just got an email that my rubber bushings are now on the way. They didn't have them in stock at the dealer I ordered them from, but they're shipping them out now. I do have the kit for the master cylinder. I got to get that done, and I'm going to go over a little bit on that when I get to it. But I think for today I'm just about wrapping it up. Don't really feel like playing with the master cylinder, but I'm going to show you guys rigging up my exhaust. I don't know if anybody remembers this adapter from the first video, but I cut about 1.5 inches or so, the 3-inch side, off and put it in the pipe, and I left a little bit of a edge there so it wasn't butted right up to the turbo to make sure that everything was nice and flat. We're going to bolt it right on and I bought two 90-degree elbows, but I'm hoping to do some sort of an angle cut on this adapter, which goes from 3-inch to 3.5. I probably could have gone with a 3-inch system, but I'd rather go a little bit bigger because my theory is get the heat out of that freaking exhaust, get it up out the pipe and up in the air, make that hole in the ozone layer a little bigger. Because us farmers, our cow farts and all that. Look at all those cows over there farting. Where are they? Global warming right there. I don't think I've shown anybody the cows yet, but we've only got a few right now. Waiting on the milk market to shape up. Hopefully one day it will. Be nice to make some money selling milk and not just spend money trying to make hay and all that good stuff. So I wish I had more to show you today, but that's it. So I'm putting the master cylinder back together now. I didn't show you guys any footage of taking the thing out or taking it apart because it's in fact quite simple. The only special tool you need is a pair of snap ring pliers, which is their snap rings that hold the whole assembly in. Now I got the kit from Allstate's Ag Parts here, and I was looking at the package and it says, where did it say? Made in Turkey on it. I thought, oh, it looks like it's good packaging. Looks professional. Well, I wouldn't recommend this kit to anybody. It turns out that the master cylinder is a Bendix master cylinder, and if I could go back I would get a Bendix kit for it, but I didn't know and I was in a hurry. I mean, it looks like it'll work, but it's just definitely not as high quality as what was originally in there. Like these little tabs here, they push against the cups inside the master cylinder. So you got your piston and your seal cup. Seal faces forward, and when you push the pedal, it pushes the rubber against these little spring tabs here, and then when you release, they let oil flow in to compensate for whatever was lacking in the actual cavity where the pressure was being created. And on the old ones, they were actually really well installed. They fit nice and the way they should be. These are a little bent, but they've been bouncing around in the oil pan here. But these ones, not so much. Not only does the rivet stick up quite high in the center, but it's hard to get a profile of it with the camera. But one side's sticking up, the other side's down, and it really isn't installed that great. But it'll do the job. It actually came with a little packet of grease. I haven't opened it yet, but in the INT manual I have, it says to just lubricate the seals with the Ford brake oil when you're reassembling it. But since they were kind enough to give me a little thing of this, I'll use that and not the $20-something a quart special New Holland brake oil. But this stuff's quite simple. Buy an INT manual if you're going to do it, because it gives you a picture, tells you how to do it. And there's no point in me really wasting my breath showing you. But I got my other parts in. I got the rubber isolators here. Came in today for the steering valve, so I got that thing all back on. I got my framework installed for my fuel tank support and side panel support, and actually hood support as well. Alright, today's the day. I got a bunch of stuff done on the tractor. we take a look here, we got the fuel tank in. My brother gave me a hand picking that thing up. I got my oil pressure line run, and I was planning on keeping the dummy light sensor hooked up too, but it was just easier to run the copper line. I ended up tucking it up nice behind the manifold here, and it's far enough away from anything. I don't think temperature is going to be a problem. Now if I had kept the plastic line that came in the kit, yes, that would have been a problem. Got the pyrometer EGT probe installed. I installed my cushion clamps like I had said. Got everything nice and tidy. The feed line's not tight yet, but tomorrow I'm going to be running the boost piping and intake piping, which if you look up in here, look at all that real estate. Makes me wonder why Ford mounted the turbo opposite the way I had it, with the exhaust facing frontward, because then I would have had a hell of a time running my piping to get it to work that way. But this is the reason I did things this way, and I've got plenty of clearance between the turbocharger and the fuel tank, the turbocharger and the frame here, and the oil line should run pretty good. It's going to be close to touching the tank, but I could probably get an adapter fitting and get it, put a 45 on there if I'm too worried about it, but I'm not too worried about it, so it's going to stay that way. I installed the lines up through the firewall here, and I got a nice firewall boot, and I'm going to be running more wires down through there. I'm going to run my new headlight wiring to replace the factory junk, but I just came up in the back there. Have a nice rubber ground on here, and we're going to end up with, where did I put it? Okay, hold on a second. Gonna end up with the gauge pod right on top there. It's probably the first time you guys are seeing this. I got this real nice gauge pod off Amazon. I actually got all the gauges there too. Got a Bosch temperature gauge, autometer pyrometer, which might I add is a very nice unit. Very well thought out, very well put together. And then just our mechanical oil pressure gauge, which is nice and simple the way I want it. I've got a wire up. I've got to run my wire for my coolant temperature sensor. But I got to wire all these guys together because these are all the illumination lights. And I definitely want them to work. They're going to be tied into the headlight switch, so when I turn my headlights on I can see. I got my boost piping kit out just to mock things up, just eyeballing it today because it's been hard for me to visualize what I would be working with. But like I said, we've got so much room up here, and it's a pretty straight shot if I put my 90-degree boot on the pressure side here and a 90-degree elbow going right over to the intake, and the stock, where did I put that? Oh, here it is. This is the stock pipe that goes to the air cleaner. Let's throw that up here real quick. Sorry guys, I'm moving the phone around while I'm trying to work here, and the wind is blowing like crazy today, so the sound is not going to be the greatest. But as I have previously mentioned, I'm working with a cell phone here. It's actually a Kyocera DuraForce Pro 2, if anybody was curious. I have to say I'm pretty pleased with the camera, and I'm pretty pleased with the phone in general. It was very cheap. I think it was only $444 new, which is like a third of the price of a new freaking iPhone. So the original pipe ran right over into the intake. I'm probably gonna end up cutting it right here, putting a 90-degree rubber elbow, and I should be able to come right down with my 90-degree elbow right into the inlet for the turbo. And I was just mocking up the side panel a little bit, and I'm gonna be clear on my inlet pipe, so really just the width of this right here where it says turbone is about all that's going to be exceeding or protruding past what the original side panel would be there. So I shouldn't have to chop the side panel up too bad. I should be able to make it look nice, no problem. and it's pretty tight between this and this, so I'm glad I got it mocked up right now, because I'm probably gonna have to make it a little bit quicker of a transition than I had originally anticipated. But as you can see, there's not a lot of room here, but that's what they make cutoff wheels and welders for. So I'll probably post this video up tonight, and then next time you guys see the tractor, I'll just show the finished product before I put the hood on, as far as boost piping is concerned and plumbing is concerned and exhaust is concerned. But the next video, we ought to hear this thing bark, which I am very excited about, because this project has taken a lot longer than I anticipated, and quite frankly, I am sick of working on this thing. I want to get out in the fields. I want to start, it's going to be time to start tillage soon, planting and all that fun stuff. I got a bunch of brush hogging to do, got a bunch of firewood to haul. Boy. But thanks again for everybody watching the videos. I really appreciate it. I've had a lot of comments. Well, I haven't had a lot of comments, but I've had a lot of people tell me that they like my videos, they're going to keep watching, and I don't really care if you do or you don't, but it's nice to know somebody out there wants to see what I'm doing, because one of the big reasons I started filming all of this is the only real souped up tractors or modified tractors I've been around are tractor pulling tractors. If anybody knows tractor pulling guys, they don't tell you anything. I'll tell you, oh, it's bone stock or something like that. They don't ever tell you what they did to it, or how they did it, or how they went about doing it. And what the hell's the point of keeping it a secret? Like, that's what I don't get. Yeah, I'm not going for horsepower here, we're going more for efficiency, and we're gonna see. I'm actually going to be tuning the fuel screw by my EGTs, because I don't really want to exceed 800 degrees under a heavy load, like maybe 900, but I'm gonna have to see how it runs the way it is. I plan on keeping the fuel screw in the location it's in right now, just to see how it is under a big load, pulling the disc or pulling a load of bales down the road or some kind of heavy work. But we're gonna go from there, because I don't want to melt my pistons, because I don't know if I had mentioned or not, but the turbocharged version of this engine had a little oil tube, a drill hole through the connecting rod that actually lubricated the wrist pin of the piston, and also that extra oil up there was nice thermal transfer that cooled the pistons themselves. And aluminum melts at like 1200 degrees Fahrenheit, so I'm hoping the exhaust temperature is a lot lower than that, because without the oil coolers, obviously aluminum expands. I don't want the pistons to expand and start scuffing up or any trouble like that. But I've rambled on enough. Thanks for watching the videos. If you like what you see, subscribe. If you don't, do whatever you gotta do. But thanks to everybody who's watching, and I'm gonna keep them coming. Thanks.